My name is Reiko Kerr, and I am the Senior Assistant General Manager for the Power System for the Department of Water and Power at the City of Los Angeles.
So Reiko, I understand that LADWP is going through a major transformation of its energy supply, including efforts to achieve 100% clean energy. Can you describe some of our accomplishments and goals along those lines?
Absolutely, Carol. One of the things that the department is very proud of, in 2006 we had about 6% of our load served with renewable energy. We are now at 31% at just over 10 years later. We are transitioning off of fossil fuels to a sustainable future. That requires a lot of analysis and transformation of business processes, power supply, etc. The City Council passed a motion for the department to look at what does it take to get to a 100% clean energy. It's one of the most exciting undertakings we're doing. It's probably the largest study of its kind, and we frequently hear of other organizations that have gone to 100%, and it's often megawatt hour match based on their annual load. We're different because we're a balancing authority, so minute by minute, hour by hour, we have to manage and match the supply with the loads. So that study is being facilitated by the National Renewable Energy Lab, or NREL. It is a very robust process. It'll take about 2.5 to 3 years. We're halfway through. It includes universities, USC, UCLA, it includes environmental stakeholders, it includes environmental justice communities, it includes neighborhood councils and others, large customers that are part of our customer base within the City of Los Angeles. So at the end of that study, in about 1.5 years, a little over a year, we will know what does that look like to get to 100%? Not only what does it look like, what does that mean to our ratepayers and the cost to do that. That may include energy efficiency, renewables, meaning wind, solar, geothermal, transmission upgrades, demand response, distributed energy resources. It is looking at all options.
Tell us how energy storage fits into that, because I know that's a big topic right now among utilities.
So one of the challenges that the state of California is really having is the oversupply of intermittent renewable resources. And you frequently see negative priced energy, meaning California pays its neighbors to take that excess energy. One of the decisions LA made back in the 70s that is so critical is to construct and build the Castaic hydropower plant. And what that means for LA, we're not seeing that same overgeneration problem because it was the early stages of energy storage, if you will. So even though we have 2,300 megawatts of intermittent resources on our system on a peak load of 6,500, we are not seeing the same problem that the state is. And California this year is expected to curtail over 400,000 megawatt hours of renewables because there's nowhere to put it.
How are we going to address that challenge?
So a number of different avenues: storage, your renewables. It's a balanced portfolio approach. So we need utility scale, which is our Castaic. We are also looking into potentially converting Hoover Dam into a pump storage process. That requires lots of studies because key to that is no negative impact on operations. It includes behind the meter storage. It includes any future power purchase agreements will likely have an energy storage component that pairs with the renewables so that we can better manage. We've gotten to this point without curtailments, but that won't get us into the future. So we're looking very closely at what that future resource mix, including storage, looks like.
Tell us a little bit about the role that solar power plays in this major transformation that DWP is doing.
We have about 1,300 megawatts of solar resources. That's about 1,000 megawatts of utility scale. We have over 33,000 systems behind the meter. The challenge with that, that's about 285 megawatts, is we have no visibility into most of that. So when the sun's shining, that's great, but when cloud cover comes or when we have the solar eclipse, that load shows up and we have to be able to supply that with other sources of power. So solar is a very key component, especially in-basin solar, as we move our grid to more carbon-free resources and get off the fossil fuel in the future.
I understand that, there's a lot of issues around local solar with equity. Can you describe what programs DWP has, such as community solar, to improve equity for customers?
So we have a solar rooftops program, and that will help customers that don't necessarily own their home but are interested in helping the environment and going renewable. So we will actually lease their rooftop and using DWP forces, we'll install solar on their rooftops and we will pay them that monthly payment. In addition, we have a community solar pilot program we're in the middle of implementing. It will be paired with local utility built with our forces, paired with utility scale, likely out in the desert in some of our renewable areas. And that the reason for that is to build locally is very expensive. It's 4 to 5 times the cost of what we can do out in the desert. So we will use a mix of both, and that way we can have more people participate, especially in multifamily or low income that are looking to get more stability in their rates as the transition happens. We are also piloting a virtual net metering program after the first of the year. So we have a number of offering. We will have a portfolio of different services that the customers can choose from.
Tell us about the importance of electric vehicles in DWP's, overall transformation of energy and trying to reduce greenhouse gases.
Transportation electrification is extremely important in the transition off fossil fuels. And it's simple because if you keep your gas fleet, your greenhouse gas doesn't change. If you convert that, whether it's electric vehicles or it's building stock to electric from gas, and you're using a renewable supply to serve that, you can have up to a 5-fold decrease in greenhouse gases. So to hit deep decarbonization within the economy will require a concerted and very aggressive approach to electric vehicles. We see that as one of the most important efforts we can undertake to reduce greenhouse gases and get to more sustainability efforts. And the key to transportation electrification, if we go with renewables out in the desert, because clearly within LADWP's footprint, you can't do the massive scale renewables that we need. That might help air quality out in the middle of the desert. But if you reduce or convert your transportation to electric vehicles, that has an immediate local impact on the local air quality of all our citizens, and particularly in some of the most impacted areas, the disadvantaged communities that have refineries and other large emitters of greenhouse gases within their neighborhoods.
How can an electric utility like DWP influence or change the policies, and developments in transportation electrification?
One of the strategic values of deep transportation electrification is it really assists utilities. Many utilities are experiencing load decreases, either from energy efficiency or conservation. In the past, it's that load growth that has helped to temper rate increases. But now when you have declining load, that's a smaller base to recover all your fixed costs. So with transportation electrification, it can increase your load by as much as 50%. So we see that as a strategic initiative to help not only clean the air in the local economy, but also assist the utility in meeting its goals, as well as doing it in a cost-effective manner. So we have very aggressive goals as far as transportation electrification and what the city has in its plan. We have a goal of 10,000 publicly available chargers by 2022, a goal of 145,000 EVs within the city by 2021. We will increase the goal for electric vehicle charging stations to 25,000 by 2025 and 28,000 by 2028. This helps because the number one problem or challenge of adopting EVs is the range anxiety. So the thought that, okay, I can drive my electric vehicle to work, but I don't want to get stranded and not be able to get home. So if you have publicly available chargers, then that reduces that anxiety. One of the things that DWP did, we installed the largest publicly available charging plaza in the city. We have 22 electric vehicle chargers available at one of our customer service centers, including 4 DC fast chargers. So one of the things that the department did, we were, I believe, the first agency to install a EV charger on a power pole, and it was in the community of Watts, a disadvantaged community, and it is one of the most popular chargers that we have. We now have 38. We have plans to install a lot more. But when you have multifamily housing or rental, folks that live in rental housing, they typically can't make the upgrades and have access to an electric vehicle charger in their garage. So if you have enough publicly available chargers, it reduces that anxiety on how do I get my vehicle charged.
Tell us a little bit more. We've also have several rebate programs available. We have for customers who want to help them purchase their own charger for both large commercial and residential. And then there's the used EV rebate, so maybe touch on those.
Yeah, so we have a residential rebate available for $500. We also have rebates for commercial customers, and those can go up to as high as $125,000 if they're doing the DC fast chargers. In addition, we're providing a rebate for used cars. The first generation electric vehicles are approaching 5 years old, so there is a viable market. And to help deploy those in the low-income, fixed-income, disadvantaged communities, multifamily housing, we see this as a way to help them not only reduce their costs, because it is cheaper to own and operate an electric vehicle than it is to own and operate a gas vehicle.
In terms of growing electrification, what are some of the challenges that the department is going to need to address as we move forward with that?
So one of the things that the department is piloting right now that's very exciting is trying to integrate all these different types of technologies, whether it's solar, whether it's electric vehicles, and how do you do that to minimize the strain on your infrastructure. So in our headquarters building here in downtown Los Angeles, we are piloting 2 separate batteries. One will be lithium ion, one will be a flow battery. Each of those are 100 kilowatt for 4 hours, so 400 kilowatt hour batteries. In the basement of the building, we have well over 200 electric vehicles. And so key to this for widespread deployment on a citywide basis is what's that impact on our infrastructure. There are some ways you can help mitigate that, whether it's a pricing structure. We're looking at this pilot as how do we manage it overall? So how can we manage the vehicle to grid and the grid to vehicle? So discharging your battery from your vehicle in to help the grid and reduce demand, or when you have too much, there's too much solar, use that to charge the batteries on those vehicles that are in our garage.
Okay, so everybody in APPA, we're all facing similar challenges as this industry evolves, customers having higher expectations, technology changing rapidly, a lot more competition from private companies like Google and Tesla. So how is DWP addressing some of these challenges?
So I think what is important, this whole energy revolution is here, it's coming. And from a utility perspective, we need to embrace that, and we need to go big, go bold, to the extent we can without sacrificing reliability. And that is really the strategy that LA is taking. And doing that in a manner that doesn't sacrifice reliability, but can do it strategically, so you're considering the 3 foundational principles of the utility, which is reliability number 1, while also environmental stewardship and competitive rates. California has some very aggressive renewable portfolio standard goals and greenhouse gas reduction goals. And so you may take the tactic that doesn't impact your utility, but generally where California goes, the rest of the country follows. So this is happening. I think it is a very big campaign, both on social media. So if it's not at your utility yet, it will be. So it's prudent, and I think the right thing to do for our children and our grandchildren to do what we can to be kind to the environment and ensure that we have a sustainable supply.